Torgen here and Jack Gannett.
All the lights are currently lit here on track. And it is go, go, go!
Contact between the Mercedes teammates.
Denoso with a crafty maneuver up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not count out Danny Beresne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Borman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
Nah, I've heard absolutely way worse. So we'll take those. Now, I'm very happy for you to step in the last minute. So if there are a couple of issues on the stream, Otis is saying nice audio. So
yep,
check out on that front.
Completely butchered that, but thank you for everyone's patience. Just quickly fixing a couple of audios just and visual bugs. Tried a couple of new things, but some of the assets broke as a result. There you go. Got it back and running as intended. So, minor hiccup, minor technical difficulty, but we're good, we're back, we're all in.
To excuse Sappy, he did have to join absolutely last second due to a dropout from the commentator. So, yeah, it's absolutely good. Give some love to Sappy, and if anything goes wrong, don't be it too harsh.
Yeah, but thank you very much. Anyway, now let's walk away from the technical issues for a second. Let's talk race day. Let's talk race time, and let's see what we have got to play with. Of course, it is the second round here. It is Brazil, and it is an absolutely brilliant track to race on. Of course, if you are going to be joining us later on, if you're watching this in post, it's a brilliant season that we are set to have. And now, yeah, going into arguably one of the most iconic tracks in my view in the season.
Absolutely. Sao Paulo, Brazil. In my eyes, it is one of the absolute greatest tracks that there is on the F1 calendar. Of course, it used to be the season closer for a very, very long time. But on the F1 game, it has always been class, and it has been a weak spot for myself. The main thing that is absolutely incredible about this track is that the times will be incredibly close, and especially for qualifying, we will have maybe the tightest margins that we'll be seeing all season long. So it's certainly something we have to look out for.
Yeah, certainly going to be something that we have to take careful consideration of. We did have some great racing out last time and some great performances overall. Just by my count, we're not going to waste too much time as we are going trackside now for qualifying, but it looks like we had a strong result with an opening win for Jan Halliday, Sergio Sobrino in second, Ian Godendorf in third. Looking like again another stacked roster this season, if early indications are anything to go by, and considering we've seen a lot of this talent over in PSGL 1, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised one bit.
Yeah, absolutely not. Although it's the final round of the season, or final season of the game, that's what I meant. It is still a very important one. And meanwhile, Sappy, we are seeing a lot of cars go out as quickly as they can. I believe that's a combination of that drivers are able to do 4 runs if they hurry, but it is looking a bit overcast as well. Are there any signs of rain?
It looks like it's cloudy, but no explicit signs of rain at this point in time. We'll see that happen over the course of the session. There may be some adjustments, and there may be a bit of a change in the predictive timings. But enough of that now, because we're about to go pre-session, and we're going to jump trackside as the session is about to get underway. We're on the outlap now, and we can see the drivers are ready to go. We're going to jump on board with a couple of them, but let's see racers have got in store for us. First out of the gate, and they're going to be the first one to set a time by the looks of things. It is going to be none other than Kian Godendorp. Currently leads the pack.
Yeah, certainly so. And Kian, he drove a very nice race last week and obviously hindered a little bit by the wing damage that he had on his car. But he still was able to bring home a very good result. I believe it was third position. But now Brazil, it is a very different track from what we saw early on in Bahrain. And hopefully a race that's going to be a little bit less chaotic. Kian on the first sector here, and the beautiful thing about Brazil is that you do have enough fuel that if you make a mistake in that first sector, you're able to go again. A 17.176 split is held in that first corner, and now going up towards that middle sector where there's a lot more technical and most time is lost or found. Right-hander here, I believe it is fully flat for these drivers, and then you go all the way down towards that third gear when it got the inside, and then this left-hander, hold it tight, go up on the throttle again, where another hairpin coming up, of course, where Alexander Albon got spun around by Lewis Hamilton a couple of years ago. And you have the long left-hander, and then you can see the second sector split, which is a 50.538, and then you've got the final real corner there, which is a left-hander, which are pretty tricky, and you need a good exit out of it on during the race, because you have a long straight up ahead where most overtaking opportunities will be arriving. Keeping a tight line up towards the line, and Kian Godendorp starts the session off with a 106.462.
It's a strong opener from Godendorp. Anyone going to top it? Cohen, very close with a 0.621. Quintino's going to come through. And the other RB, 0.358. Jan Halliday, 0.336. Immediately, that time being eclipsed by about a 1/10.5 as the timing board is set alight with multiple cars. Benzoni, unfortunately, with an invalidation. Nelson Alves coming up to the line. It's only going to be a 31.8, so clearly a mistake being made along the way. That's going to be a run to forget for the Williams. Benzoni also going through. Looks like this is going to be their lap in full rather than matching the timing of the previous. And I do find that a bit curious, considering the other drivers will be on their cooldown. They might face a bit of traffic issue.
Yeah, certainly so, and traffic is always going to be difficult around Brazil, especially, I mean, last week we already had 2 qualifying bans being handed out to Topias Koivunen and Ben Marples. We also do have Angelo D'Ortenzio, who's retiring, who I do believe is doing a last to first all season long. Didn't have the greatest success with that around Bahrain, so let's see if we can do any better this time round. We're still on board with Ricardo Benzoni, who's also done a 50.5 split, matching the second sector time of Kian Godendorp. So I would expect the laptop to be somewhere around there, maybe a couple of thousand slower, so I would expect him to jump in towards that 7th position in front of Sergio Sobrino. He actually goes all the way up to 4th, so a strong final sector by the McLaren driver, and we saw Nelson Alves dive back in towards the pit lane as well. So given the fact that the minimal fuel you can run allows you to do 2 hot laps, it will see a couple of drivers go out of sync. Also was the reason why everyone went out so incredibly quickly, but it's good for us commentators because it will remain very exciting, of course, and seeing a 106.3 in that first run in the banker, that's a very strong start from Jan Halliday.
Oh, you look as well, P1 to P12, it's only 0.3 of a second splitting them, so the margins are incrementally getting smaller and smaller. Especially look at that mid-pack, P4 to P7, you're talking 200ths, 1/4 of a second splitting those 4 drivers. So it really is a case of a single corner making or breaking your entire qualifying session. But we're on board with Imtiaz now, as he's going to be one of the last 3 currently on track to be able to get time on the board. He's yet to get a banker lap, along with Keanu Lito and Diego Zorzo. As you said, a couple of drivers with qualifying bans, and Hortensio also at the session means both Alpines and one of the Williams are going to be out. And I know the Constructors doesn't have as much weight, but an entire team being out of qualifying it is going to be a bit of a blow. It is going to really upset particularly any championship efforts. We'll see potentially protagonists from previous seasons continue their good fight. As we've seen with Halliday, strong opener, and we might see now with Reyes Imtiaz putting down some solid pace in sectors 1 and 2. Can he match it up? Can he bring it together in the final couple of corners? Making his way through up to the line. It's a 106.4. And just 3 milliseconds behind Benzoni is going to be P5. Meanwhile, you have Zorzo coming up to the line. Lito closely following behind. Zorzo goes third with a 0.410. And that's going to be Lito in 11th with a 0.538. But now we see even more drivers starting their laps, like current pole position holder, Jan Halliday.
Yeah, certainly so. I'm on board with a man that's a little bit further up the field, which is Leo Lund, who's just invalidated. So there goes the commentator's curse already. So let's stick on board with Jan Halliday then, because obviously last weekend he was the race winner. With he went alone on strategy. He's aborted his lap as well. I'm really on a good roll here, ain't I?
You know how to
Gano
pick
just
him.
passed him. So let's go on board with Gano. Let's hopefully not curse him. But I was going to say, Jan, he had a really strong race last time out in Bahrain. Obviously winning there with a strategy where he went fully alone on. And Jan might be the man to beat this F2 season. And now again showing himself on that first position. It means that he's in really good form. We see the first couple of cars heading back in towards the pit lane. We do, I believe, have a Red Bull that is coming towards the line. Actually, it is a Racing Bull. I am slightly colorblind. You will find that out. Kian Hoddendorp putting down a 0.3 as well. You see those margins getting finer and finer by every single lap that is being run. We do still have Keanu, who recently went in towards the pit lane as well. So all the laps that I followed have not been a successful one, Sappy.
Yeah, well, we're on board with Contino now, the other Racing Bulls, and they're going to be coming through with a 0.326, hundredth of a second faster than current pole holder Jan Halliday, and a very impressive lap to boot. Few more drivers making their way through also, but it's going to be an incremental improvement. It's not going to set the track on fire, but it's those couple of crucial tenths of a second that have really made the difference. Like with Larry Tilke, 0.4 flat, that's going to be enough to put him in P5 and really start to disturb the order of the other drivers. Let's see what they have in store for us here, as we have a few more drivers who need to push those times up. I'm looking towards the 0.6s, the 0.5s, and as the track remains overcast but not necessarily rainy, the important thing is here, you just need to rein in those crucial few milliseconds.
That is exactly so. And many of the drivers, again, that are coming towards the line have invalidated their lap time, showing how difficult it is to be running a full clean lap around this track. And, I mean, we were talking about how close those margins were. Now, if you look between first all the way down to 11th, it is almost within a tenth of a second. That is how incredibly close those margins are around Brazil, and what makes it one of my favorite tracks on this calendar that we do have. A lot of cars pulling into the pit lane. Luca Rapassa is continuing, and he places himself right in that gap, matching the exact lap time of Ricardo Benzoni, and only being a couple thousandths of a second faster than Reyes Imtiaz. Luca Rapassa was the final person that was on a lap successfully for his second stint, and we already have a handful of drivers preparing themselves to start their next round. I do believe that Reyes Imtiaz is a little bit out of sync. This should be his second hot lap only. So then you're already deciding to do one hot lap less than the rest, which might not be ideal, but giving yourself a lot of free track and limiting the risk of potentially blocking someone in qualifying, it does also have its advantages. And you need to seriously rush if you want to be doing 4 runs. If you get blocked by your teammates only in the slightest, that opportunity fully goes away. And Reyes Imtiaz, the man that we are currently on board with, he was someone that had a very, very strong race in Bahrain until he unfortunately had an incident for himself. But he was someone that obviously came from F3 last season that made a very strong impact in this F2 season that he does have. So let's stay on board with him, see where this qualifying ends up. He's improving by about a tenth of a second, which will be putting him on the top of the field. And if he does have a strong final turn, he might be challenging for that lead. Gabriel Cantino is currently in that position. The Brazilian himself on his home track in first position. Only question is, will he be able to remain in that position? For now, he certainly will, because Reyes Imtiaz slots himself into that third position.
Yep, brilliantly done there from Imtiaz, 0.370. Great result. And Zorzo is going to be next up on the field, but looks like he is abandoned that lap in favor of making this lap the one to be the setting of it all. Everyone else, for the most part, has gone back out on track and is completing their outlaps ready for a full core run. But Zorzo is, like with Imtiaz and Koya, a little bit off sync from the field, and this could play into their hands very effectively, but they need to avoid, as you said earlier, getting blocked. There is, oh, it's an invalidation just coming out of turns 4 and 5 there. Unfortunate. That is going to be aborting of the lap from one of the Aston Martins. But let's check in with Aston number 2. This is Jan Halliday. Once again, we'll see how he's getting on. He does seem to have free reign on his section of track, because while we don't have collisions on in qualifying, and that's the reason we have the in between the qualifying and the race, we have a small break. That is to reset collisions and lobby settings. We do still have visual distractions in the form of other cars, so it's just as important, if not more important, because you're lulled into a false sense of security, and before you know it, you're off track, or you've invalidated, and that lap is gone. Either way, Halliday up to the line. Will we see an improvement here from the AMR? Very tight to the left side, crossing the line. Now it's a 0.2. That is a fresh improvement for Jan Halliday. Great stuff there, and we'll see if anyone can match it. Good up. Another one on the run, but Alves, like they have not long passed, along with Quintino, who is starting a lap in just a moment.
Yeah, certainly so. We got Liam Stevens coming towards the line, who doesn't improve by only 0.07 of a second. It shows how incredibly close those margins are. We've got a Haas coming towards the line. I believe that were to be Harvey Cowan. Let's see what he can do. He can actually start his lap time as well. So again, what we're seeing, because those lap times are so short, you are able to do 2 runs in a row. We've got Leo Lund, who's running towards the line, improving by about 1/10 of a second, which normally doesn't seem a lot from B13 onwards, but that is a very nice improvement. I would expect the ball time to be around a 0.1, but a 0.2 from Jan already secures yourself a great position if it stays like this. And even if a couple of drivers beat you, you would still certainly be up there. So Jan, again, putting himself in an absolutely incredible position. And the question is, who's next up towards the line? We've got Benzoni, who is not improving, and 2 cars closely behind him who I don't think are improving as well. So yeah, many drivers will be preparing themselves for this final lap. And I think for almost all of these drivers, this lap really is make or break. Because in the race, although Brazil is a track where you can overtake relatively easily at, it will still be a big challenge if you're starting, for example, all the way down in P15, where Harvey Cohen was. Even though last week he was able to make quite a few nice moves, doing the same thing at Brazil might be a full new challenge. 4 more minutes left on the clock. A couple of drivers still out on track will be making their way in towards the pit lane. The big question is, who will be taking pole position in this final run?
Well, as things currently stand, Halliday looks to continue as a dominant force, being first currently in quali by 0.5 of a second. Quintino alongside in that front row. Alves and Lund take row 2, potentially, with Lito and Imtiaz. So going to be in row 3 with a strong result in the 0.3s. So question is, will the rest of the field start to catch up? We have Tope Ben Marples and Angelo Diotenzio all out of the qualifying session. That is primarily due to qualifying bans, and that is going to be for, I believe, one of them. I believe the qualifying ban for Marples was for interference. I think the others are actually the same cause.
Angelo is doing a last to first. Obviously, our champion from last season decided to give himself a little bit of a challenge. So he wants to be doing a last to first every single race during the season. So that's the reason that he has retired so early on. There's one man that's going a little bit out of sync. His name, Daniel Koya. He's decided to go out of the pit lane earlier and not do a hot lap now. Pretty much doing that with the purpose of burning enough fuel so the car is as light as possible when you are starting this final lap. If you're cruising on this lap, you won't have that much tire wear, and it would actually be a little bit quicker. But it does give yourself a lot of pressure to be performing on that final lap alone. I wonder if a couple other drivers are going down that strategy route as well. We've got Kian Hoddendorp, who does seem to be starting his hot lap. ERS is on, and he will be the first driver to absolutely send it and start his final run of this qualifying session. Kian Hoddendorp is named on board.
They're going full tilt as the rest of the field is fully in preparation. Hoddendorp is going to be the one who is capitalizing on the quiet. 2 minutes left in the session. It does mean Hoddendorp is going to be putting all his eggs into this final basket here. He's got to pray and hope because he won't have enough time for a recovery should it go wrong. Looking fairly clean into the first sector now through sector 2. It'll be a little bit tight to the apexes here. You've got to have trust in the car and the ability to rotate, really working that diff as we come our way down to sector 3 here. Is looking about a 1/10 of a second up, which could potentially put him as high as the front row. Just needs to connect it all together. Hoddendorp really has to put everything into this final few couple of corners now. So left side, keep it tight, up to the line, 2:03, nearly a 0.1. Hoddendorp with a strong initial run here. Can it be matched? There's Zorzo coming up to the line here. It's going to be an improvement of 0.394, but that is going to be them done. No improvement from the Aston from this point onwards. Couple more cars are going to be quickly making their way up to the line. Let's take it on board with them. First, Albus. They are going to be on what looks to be a burn lap, and this is where, like with the others, after the burn, the pressure is on to get these final laps done to perfection.
Certainly so. We've got a racing pool 1-2 as it stands so far. Kian Hoddendorp, and then we've got Gabriel Quintino. Liam Stevens has already done his lap time as well, but almost all the other cars have done preparation for this final lap to be starting, and it's going to be very tricky to find out exactly who the first person is to cross the line for his final lap. It might be one of the Aston Martins, although that's Zorzo, who's already done his lap time. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle. I think it might be Nelson Alves, Sappy. Don't you think?
We've got Alves.
Yeah, Alves, though, on that middle sector split, and he's not improving by 0.004 of a second. So if he has a good final turn, he might be able to challenge the lap time of Liam Stevens, but it might not be as big as an improvement as the Portuguese driver would have wanted it. He's coming up towards the line right here, and it is not an improvement, unfortunately, for him. We go on board with Harvey Cohn, who's next across the line. A 10th and a bit improvement, puts himself only at 13th position, and Sergio Sobrino's up next towards the line, gets himself in that 4th spot. We've got a Mercedes coming towards the line. That's Larry Tolkien with a small improvement, actually a big improvement, finds himself up in 4th position. We've got all the drivers coming into the line in one row. Jan doesn't improve as well. We've got the Red Bulls coming towards the line. Liam Stevens, who's already finished his lap time, actually. Leo Lund's going towards that top spot with a 0.16. Alina not improving as well. Everything happened at the same time, Sappy. Give us a quick summarization.
That's a quick sweep in the dying moments of the qualifying session, but what a session it was to close. And Leo Lund is going to be your driver who takes it at the final moment. 8 milliseconds split him and Hoddendorp in the V carb, along with Quintino and Halliday taking row 2. Tulki and Sobrino make row 3, with Stevens and Alves taking row 4. 5th is going to be McLaren's, with Benzoni and Luto going side by side. The Team United with Imtiaz and Zorzo in 11th and 12th. Jacobs and Cohen make row 7. Finally, Rapassa, Leonhardt, and Koya with Tope, Ben Marples, and Angelo D'Ortenzio with that last to first challenge. I gotta say, he's confident. He is confident. I do see that confidence in him, but we will have to wait and see how that pans out. Now, we are going to have a short break, folks. Are going to hear a little bit from lovely folks over at GT Omega while we get the lobby reset and while we get things ready to go racing. So, keep it right here. We'll be right back with you after this short message.
Let me peek at the tyres.
All right, folks, welcome back. Thank you very much for your patience. We're just getting things set up, and we're ready, going racing again in just a short moment. Of course, we do have to thank people like GT Omega for making this season possible. If you use code PSGL at checkout, you'll get a healthy discount. But I gotta say, what a qualifying. Final moments, it all lit up. We didn't see massive jumps from some of the field, but things like the Leo Lund run, that was spectacular. Crazy thing, he didn't even get the best sector time anywhere. It was the best sector times for one of the RBs, for Sabrino, and then for Jan Halliday. We didn't see that jump without some consistency there, but he managed to push it all the way to a 0.1 despite it technically not being the best possible time, and that's insane to me.
Yeah, but I think it just shows how incredibly tight this whole field is, and mistakes are so easily made in a qualifying lap because these drivers, many of them would have put multiple hours into practicing, some drivers even tens of hours, and to absolutely nail a lap on a track like Brazil where the times are so incredibly close, the lap time's only a minute. You need to absolutely send it, and if you don't, your lap's just already gone. Those sector times, it doesn't really surprise me that much. But what does surprise me, realistically, both Racing Bulls doing really nicely, putting themselves in second and third position, which does give them a good opportunity to do well in this race. Question is if they will be working together or not, because if they will, they might be able to guarantee a race victory for one of them, but I doubt that's going to happen.
We'll have to wait and see. We'll see how the team plays off each other, and with that we'll also be having a quick look as well. A reminder of the calendar up ahead of probably our shortest season to date, but also the last season on F1 24. So 9 races. We're here on race 2, and that of course means that every round is more important than the last. The stakes are even higher when there's less points to be gained, and we see that reflected in the standings. We're going to go with the standings now, and you can see Halliday, as we said last time out, getting a strong initial result, winning out in the previous race. You do have a single point being gained for pole position and for the fastest lap, so worth keeping in mind, and that is certainly going to be a healthy boost for some. Like we see Tope did manage to get pole position, so treated to an extra point despite finishing behind Liam Stevens. But with things being set in motion early, who do you have your eye on this stage in the season, Simon?
This stage in the season, it is very early on, and the race that we had in Bahrain was absolute chaos. Many drivers had damage. I believe over half the field at some point did have some wing damage. So from that race alone, it was very hard to argue. But there's been one man, or actually two guys, that have been on top this whole time. One of them being Jan Halliday, obviously. But the other man, Kian Goedendorp, we had him in a post-race interview as well, and he said that this was his season. That last season, most of the race, he did not really practice for it. But this season, it would be different. He would be trying. He wants this title. And he's up there again in the qualifying at Brazil. He was up there in the race at Bahrain, even though he had wing damage. And he's a driver that's currently really impressing myself so far. What I'm also looking out for is a couple of drivers that have made the debut from the F3 grid, because obviously this season is going to be really important because you want to be in F2 at the start of the next game. That is one of the main things that is in the mind of all these drivers that are currently competing here. And those drivers that have recently promoted, they know that they need to perform. And if your name's Diego Zorzo and you get 6th place last night in Bahrain, you're just doing a really good job. And all they're looking for is to just keep collecting those points and continuing that way. So those are the real things that I'm watching out for. The rookies in this tier, Jan Halliday and Kian Goedendorp.
Well, they certainly some good drivers to be watching out for and some solid talent. Really, it is quite a difficult thing to judge considering how much talent has converged over the course of, I'd say, just this game alone. Of course, every game, drivers have only been getting faster and faster, more consistent as they learn the nuances and they push even further towards the limit. But especially these past couple of seasons, it has been so tight, the pace spread between drivers, and to the point where we are seeing regular appearances from F2 drivers in F1, from F3 drivers in F2 being pulled up. It's really been something special, and to see this level of talent from a roster like this, it's something else. Personally, for me, I am going to keep my eye on Jan. I personally have seen the amount of pace that he's able to extract from that car, and he's a driver who knows how to be decisive. He's not too quick to jump to moves, but when he goes for a move, he goes for a move. He really puts everything into it, and I think that kind of decisive race strategy and that driving style has been certainly something that has brought him great success. It has sometimes bitten him in the behind, but with some refinement, as he's really shown as of recent, that is something that could be very powerful here. We've also got the eyes on, like you said, Kian, and also I'm curious to see how D'Ortenzio does. Now, he's got the last to first challenge. He's already proven himself as a driver, but I'm just curious to see what he does here. He's got a very unique challenge he's set for himself, and against this level of competition, I'm certainly going to find it entertaining.
Yeah, certainly, and at the end of the day, you need to think how smart it is, obviously. Angelo, I believe he's 14, might have recently turned 15, if that's wrong, excuse me. But he's still a very young driver, and we've seen a couple other young drivers who have recently made their debut in F1 esports. I mean, take Otis Lawrence, for example. Around the same age as Angelo, he was always up there competing in PSGL on the absolute highest level. And if you see a driver like Angelo who's able to do the same thing, obviously being champion last year, and if he's able to get some pretty good results whilst doing a last to first, that's going to again give himself a very good look. But I do wonder if he just absolutely goes for it this season, where he can end himself up, because that's certainly a name, Angelo D'Ortenzio, that I can expect to see picked up by an official F1 esports team pretty shortly, and someone that we can certainly be seeing on the grid in the future. Meanwhile, all the drivers have loaded in towards the session. They will be applying their car setups now, choosing their strategy, and here we go.
Here we go, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Track is hot here in Brazil, round 2 of the season, and immediately it's going to be a quick jump. Looks like we're starting from lap 2, which is pretty interesting here. Not sure what's happened, whether that is a hiccup on the game timer, but we're going to roll with it anyway, as Leoland is currently leading, currently holding the line, is Alves just behind, much further on the grid, but displaying as P1. We're going to have to investigate that, of course, but initial strategy, looks like everyone is going on to the hard compounded tyres to start things off. Really consistent strategy. I think we're going to see a traditional hard medium here from pretty much everyone, unless they want to push the envelope at the end of the race. Who's to say?
No, I believe it certainly is a definitive hard medium strategy here. And I believe they're going to be being around the lap 20 mark, maybe even a little bit earlier. We do have a few scrabbles further back down the field. We have, it's a 3-wide moment, and Angelo D'Ortenzio's fully gone off and spun round. It was a 3-wide moment in the hairpin with both the kick Saubers involved, and Angelo drew the short end of the stick, got pushed on the grass and spun round as a result of that. So your champion from last season, he can do all the last to first that he wants, but if he keeps getting unlucky like this, you might need to think if that's really worth it. We've got Ricardo Benzoni and Nelson Alves fighting a little bit with each other a little bit further up the field, but those moves are easily done. Reese Imtiaz as well making a move on Liam Stevens. A little bit of a mistake from Ricardo Benzoni going wide in that third turn, and Nelson Alves being able to make that position back, and same going for Liam Stevens, who also takes back his 9th position. So a lot of fighting early on, and with everyone being on that same strategy, you need to make those moves as soon as possible. Topic getting pushed there a little bit wide there, but Sixten Lindhardt and his teammate Daniel Koya able to profit from that as well and gain another position. A lot of fighting going on a little bit back there, but the main thing we need to watch out for early on, there's a 1-second gap between Luca Rapassa and Harvey Cohen, and let's see if Harvey's able to close down on that gap, because if you lose DRS so early on in this race, that could be very costly for his future in this race.
Yeah, we've got Cohen in the danger zone right now, and as you said, you lose that DRS, it effectively game over before it's even started. He's going to have to be extremely careful with how he deploys his DRS and his ERS to really maximize. He's just made the detection zone this time round, but I wouldn't expect him to hold on for too long. Meanwhile, Quintino going for the challenge, using the DRS on Leo Lund. Is there going to be any kind of counter-attack from the Ferrari? Making his way down Retro-Aposta into turns 4 and 5 here. Has a DRS zone to his advantage, only uses it to close the gap. Hasn't quite got the attacking power to be able to go for it on this occasion. Really, your key hotspots are going to be into turn 4, are going to be coming out of turn 15 down the start-finish straight. It's rare that you see moves coming from anywhere else, but we have seen drivers try to push the limits, particularly around turns 9 and 10. That seems to be a bit of a dive spot for drivers if they do go alongside another car.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen overtakes being made in the middle sector in real life as well as in sim racing in the past, and that's not always gone well. I said it in qualifying. Lewis Hamilton and Alexander Albon is a prime example of such. Leo Lund, though, he is getting under a little bit of pressure from Kian Goedendorp, and Kian, at one point, he will decide, I've had enough, I want to make 2 moves at once. But this time around, he doesn't do so. Leo Lund going alongside, not actually making a move, which allows the door to be open up for Kian Goedendorp, and he is able to make maybe a relatively easy overtake, still side by side in that 3rd corner. And I'm going to go on the straight. I'm going to go on board with Jan Halliday, who's right behind it. You see the Racing Bull and the Ferrari being side by side, but Kian eventually driving with his head fully, deciding to yield the position and give Leo Lund the 2nd position back. But I think it shows that Kian certainly does have the ability to make those moves and to fight his way in towards a better position. And you want to be in those first 3 positions because then you're able to drive yourself into the lead pretty much whenever you want, which is the big advantage. But we were talking about it, the DRS gap. Look at the margin. Oh, there's a little bit of a scrabble for the back. Christian Jacobs is fighting with Jarno Liatud, and there's another 1 second gap there. And I don't want to say he's done it again, but Christian Jacobs, he was talking about it earlier on, and drivers as well, that he had a big incident in another league where he got banned actually from doing so. He swiped another driver. And now in Brazil, if he gets in many incidents again, that doesn't give him certainly a good look out of the DRS zone from him, so we only have a DRS strength from the top 11 on this grid. Question is, are they still able to drive it back, or is this race an 11-man battle?
Yeah, well, that's the question. It depends on how much the top drivers squabble. We see Halliday going along side by side through turn 4, barely keeping it within the track limits as they tussle right to the edge. Halliday is running the recharge light, so maybe they burnt everything in an earlier attempt to take position. But Lund is alongside the 2 RBs, and he's currently got an interesting decision to make. Does he go aggressive and try and retake the position from Quintino, or does he go defensive to secure his position against Goedendorp? That is the question he's trying to face, and he's got to have to come up with a solution fairly quickly, as if he doesn't make a move, one of those RBs will, or Jan Halliday is going to come and sweep the carpet out from underneath them. But it is going to become, I think, a tale of 2 races unless like Rapasa picks up the pace. He's got it down to 8.5 tenths of a second, so he's back within margin. But we see the move being struck as Goedendorp is going to be down into P4 to Jan Halliday's podium jump, and Leo Lund is going to reassert himself as leader of this race on lap 6.
Exactly so. We've got a battle between Toppe and Sixten Lindhardt a little bit further down the field. The fight for P17. Sixten Lindhardt having to lose position towards Topias Koivunen. Obviously, Toppe having a qualifying ban early on, and Sixten joining surprisingly late in the session. He was only able to do 1 run, and as a result of that, he qualified pretty much all the way in the back of the field. I wanted to say something, but I fully forgot what it was. I'll probably come back to that later. But so far, those gaps have all now closed down. And besides Toppe, who is fighting that 1 second mark, the whole field is back in one big DRS train. We're able to continue from there. Oh yeah, actually, I wanted to say about the leading position bit. If you're in the lead, you are pretty much a bit of a sitting duck, Sappy, because you will have to do the punching in the punching gap for everyone else behind you, so you're easily overtaken. And I believe if you are chasing a car, you get less tire wear. As strange as that sounds, I do believe that is the way this game works. So most drivers are always happy to sit in that 2nd position, maybe save the tires a little bit more, because every percentage that you can save is a little bit of time. in this race, and that will always help you in the future.
It's always the trade-off, isn't it? You get less tyre wear and you get a little bit less air resistance, so you have a bit better acceleration, but that comes at the cost of cornering grip and also temperatures. Your cooling is going to be adversely affected, so too much in the slipstream, you can introduce some high surface temperatures on your tyres, and that can result in levels of grip being inconsistent, which is of course the last thing you want. You could be mid-corner. If they start to drop in grip level because you're working those surfaces too high, and you are going to be in a little bit of trouble quite quickly. So it's a fine balance, it's a fine art. It's why you see drivers tend to tuck to one side even if they're not necessarily going for a move. It's to strike that balance, to cool those tires, to get the cooling and the grip under control.
Yeah, exactly so. It is going to be a 16-man battle because a gap of 2.2 seconds from Topias Koivunen might be a little bit too much to clear earlier on. And I do believe that Toppe is running quite low downforce because he knew he had a qualifying ban and you need to be making moves earlier on. So compared to the drivers that might be running a little bit more downforce, that would naturally be faster through those corners. It's going to be hard for him to maintain his position. And again, the gap is now almost 3 seconds. So I think we can cross off Toppe, Sixten Lindhardt, Ben Marples, and Angelo D'Ortenzio is actually almost catching that train. But his name could be crossed off the list of potential winners. Unless, of course, we get a safety car, then everything is back up. Last lap, we did have an overtake attempt from Luca Rapassa in the middle sector on Diego Zorzo, but it was denied by the Spaniard. So those positions remain as such. Lap 8 out of 36 so far. We're about halfway through the hard stint, and drivers are starting to settle into this race a little bit more. Of course, you want to try and find a couple of overtakes, slowly drive your way forward, but that is so incredibly difficult. The drivers purely focus now on their ERS play. When do you use it? When are you able to regain your battery system? And as long as they are doing that all too well, I'm not going to be expecting that many moves early on.
Yeah, well, early stages of the race, just about finding your position, running some consistent mileage, and making sure you don't get yourself in too much trouble. I will say one person I am somewhat worried for is at the back, is D'Ortenzio. He's done some good work to wrap up some of the time that he lost from that earlier incident, but I can't help but feel in the back of my mind, this last to first challenge, yes, of course, as we said before the session, you've proven your worth, you've already got champion in this division. However, it does reek a little bit of overconfidence to go for that kind of last to first challenge, as he's currently sat in P20 and he's a second out. He is making up time, but certainly going to be stifled in terms of results. And if we're looking towards the bigger picture, we're looking towards the wider esports racing scene and getting picked up for opportunities. You want to have a strong and consistent track record, and I think that might come back to bite if he's not careful.
Exactly so. Harvey going in a battle between himself and Rishan Jacobs. Again, a heavy fight involving the Red Bull driver, who was able to now use his DRS and get back up ahead of the field, or ahead of that position. And I do also know why the gap is becoming so big all of a sudden. We have wing damage for Topias Koivunen, Sixten Lindhardt, and Ben Marples, which means that Angelo, who's now caught this train, is able to profit from them a little bit, but in the middle sector, he's just losing oh so much time. We have end plate damage from all the cars from P17 to P19 downwards, which for them obviously is really unfortunate, but that will mean that Angelo needs to breach that gap himself back towards 16th position, which is about 5 seconds. That will be a very difficult task from him. The only thing I can see is him to pit very early on, and then hopefully for him connect himself towards the back end of this train. But from there on, it's going to be difficult to make moves onwards. So Angelo, this race, doing a last to first, it's a good attempt, but I don't think it works. What might work is the overtake opportunity from Larry Tulki down the inside in turn 1 of Kian Goedendorp, but Kian does close that door, denies the move, and Sergio Sobrino's are absolutely behind him. It's going to go side by side. It is going to be 3 wide coming down towards that 4th turn, and Kian Goedendorp losing 2 positions as one. Larry Tulki finding himself in the 4th position, Sergio Sobrino in 5th, and Nelson Alves also profiting from it, finding himself now in that 6th position. So that's why you don't need to fall asleep, because if you do, you might lose 3 positions in one go. Kian from P4 down to P7.
Yep, and that's the thing. Once the door is opened, if you've got another driver behind you, they're going to go for the same opportunity, and they're going to get the same kind of benefit. We see Godendorp being displaced all the way down to P7. He's dropped multiple positions just in the course of a single sector. Alves, Sabrino, Torquay, all in a very strong position. And then the top three looking fairly stable. Quintino, half of a chance here to go for an attack. Does he go for it? Yes, he does commit to it. He goes down the inside, but this could leave the door open for a counter from Leo Lund. Down into the first corner. That's the RB up in the lead by about 0.2 of a second. Great exit, good line, and actually managed to get a bit of a breakaway. I don't think Lund's going to have the counter attack on this one, and we'll see as we go into the fourth and fifth corners. He's managed to stop the drop, but he's not been able to push through. Now, D'Hortensio, meanwhile, he's managed to push through two of the cars and has just made it three. Tope being overtaken, of course, running a weaker setup with the missing end plate. But now he's got 5.2 seconds to make up, and against traffic that is running at optimal pace, this is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, exactly so. The gap, 4.7 seconds for Angelo to be making up. And Kian is now lost another position to Riccardo Benzoni, who made an easy move on himself down in turn 1. So I might be afraid that the Dutchman has picked up some slight damage along the way. We do have Liam Stevens, who's behind him, who's absolutely draining his battery trying to make a move, and Kian Hoendendorp as well. He's seen the trends, but he's unable to follow. So he's just sticking himself in towards that position. We have Tope, who's re-overtaking Angelo D'Hortensio now. So he's trying to work together with the Italian in an attempt to catch back up towards the field. But if you want to do so, I think you do need to let Angelo lead the way in that middle sector. So Tope taking the lead earlier on the first straight, and then on the second straight, Angelo's able to get back and then work for the back in the corners. Will it work? I seriously doubt it.
Does look like they're coordinating, though, at the very least. We can see Tope coming out the way, going to the inside, allowing D'Hortensio to take an optimal line and not have to deviate too much. So they are doing a bit of leapfrogging. The question is, will it be effective, considering Tope is, along with the other two drivers, running those damaged front wings? It's not maybe enough to consider going for an early pit stop, but it is enough to hold them back to the tune of about 4.5 seconds. Now, that has gone down since we last checked on them. They are making progress, but it's slow going, and it's already lap 14, so we might see this disrupted by the pit window. Not to be outdone, however, Quintino is going to get down to not second, but third place. Halliday is going to be cutting through, and that is going to be a decisive move for the Aston Martin. Unfortunately, the helicopter cam has not got much in the way of stabilization, but we go to the onboards, and we can see just how close these cars are running through these different corners. Alves right to the tail of Sergio Sabrino, looking at an opportunity to keep his car nice and close. Not going for any moves here, but keeping those cars close together means he's got the best chance to overtake through the start-finish straight.
Absolutely. So there was a gap again between P12 and P13, but Christian Jacobs overtaking Harvey going and recovering from that feat. Drivers that are in the middle of the pack, I think, are just counting down the laps until the pit stops will happen, because then the chaos will really ensue and the racing will be seriously starting. But again, I think that move from Jan on Gabriel Quintino shows the brilliance that this man has. He knows exactly when to strike. He doesn't do it often. He doesn't make any erratic moves, but when he does make a move, like you said earlier, Sappy, he does it absolutely brilliantly. And that's one of the reasons why, again, he is at the front of this pack, doing so incredibly well. Just the blocking off the inside there of Gabriel Quintino, showing, no, you're not going to be passing me on this straight right here. If you want to do so, try again another time. So very good driven from him so far. And these drivers are counting down the laps, currently on lap 15 of about 37. So in about 5 laps from now, Sappy, I am expecting the first pit stops.
Yeah, the first pit stops will come, and then we'll start to see the race diverge in two, as drivers will have to decide whether they want to go for an optimal strategy or maybe go for something like an under or even overcut, although we don't see the overcut as commonly. It tends to be a much riskier gamble than going under, because it's always easier to defend a position than it is to attack it. That's why the undercut tends to be the preferred strategy if you can get away with it and manage it on the tyres. Halliday pushing himself up into the lead of the race as we head up into lap 16 now. Larry Toolkey briefly trying his luck on the RB of Quincino, but it's not quite going to land on this occasion. A couple of other cars also potentially trying their luck. We see Gerdendorp having been pushed all the way down into P8, maybe looking to get some positions back on the competition, but it does look like they're consistently struggling with pace. I wonder, is something going on with their car? Because they seem to be an easy target for positions, especially over the past 3 laps.
Yeah, it is interesting, but we don't really know for sure. Obviously, we don't have all the information that these drivers may be having. So let's just keep an eye on what will be happening. And I think if we're going to be seeing an early pit stop, it might come from the man who is currently in P17, our champion from last year, Angelo D'Ortenzio. That 5-second gap, I mean, you would require like a 2-lap undercut from there, which might be around now or 2 more laps from this point onwards. So that would certainly be interesting. Nelson Alves is incredibly close to the back end of Sergio Sobrino, but he is again also holding himself off, which again we talked about how brilliant these drivers were. They were making this progress and they were developing themselves. But I don't think we often see a grid that knows when or when not to make moves, that it knows to just be patient because it's not going to work out. These drivers are all learning that to work on the absolute highest level. That's certainly a skill that you need in F1 esports in the future, because there it is going to be oh so crucial. And I mean, in the second stint, that rule's gone. In the second stint, if you're behind the car, you're going to be attacking it in an attempt to overtake, because everyone in the second stint will think that they're the absolute fastest man on track. But for now, on the hards, it's a bit of a fairy tale. Everyone's working together nicely, and it's looking very good in this race so far. Cars are sliding a little bit, but we still, as of so far, we've got Jan who's leading the pack, Leo Lund in second, Gabriel Cantino in third. Then we've got Larry Toki, Sergio Sobrino, Nelson Alves, Ricardo Benzoni, Kian Goodendorp, Liam Stevens, and rounding out the top 10, we have Mr. Breeze Imtiaz.
So an interesting point you bring up, and one I'd like to rally on, is that choice of when to overtake and when to attack. I was told something once that was to the tune of, a good driver will go on lap 2 because he sees the opportunity, but a great driver will go on lap 5 because he knows the good driver has attacked on lap 2 and already spent themselves. Now, I'm not saying go as late as you can. In fact, quite the opposite. Saying that the great drivers and the real talents of the roster don't just have that good racecraft. And as we sit here in PCF2, having that top level pace and racecraft is a must. I'm saying you combine that with an element of strategy, with a bit of game theory, and almost playing chess out of the race order. It's about asking yourself, right, is this going to be putting me in the position that I need in 3, 4, 5 laps time? It's not just in the immediate future. It's about where you're going to land and how that serves you, particularly around this crucial pit window, as we've already seen a couple of cars come through. That's the Hortensio, who has gone on for mediums, and we're seeing a couple of more. That's Gerdendorp, that's Imtiaz. That is also going to be joining them. Zorzo, Jacobs, Lito. But penalties for speeding in the pit lane are being handed out to the Aston Martin specifically, and that is typically a race ender. But someone I do also feel bad for is Linhart and Marples, because Tope and D'Ortenzio have basically left the two out to dry. They were chaining off each other. He's left these two on their own.
Yeah, it is unfortunate for them. But with the wing damage that they had, it was always unrealistic to get a good result on going. So I think they've already written this race off for themselves. Angelo might not be happy with this, that these drivers are pitting so early. He gained about 1.5 seconds on this lap alone, so maybe he needed just one more, and then he was able to make a catch there. Diego Zorzo letting the two drivers in front of him seemingly pass because he knows he has that penalty. 10 seconds, it is absolute killer, especially on a track where these margins are so close. It's that final long straight, this field is really able to bunch
look at his
up
front
together
wing
and make slight margins. Does Zorzo have damage?
Zorzo's front wing is all but destroyed, and Sobrino.
Safety car.
Yep, we're trying to get a on-track view of it now. It looks like... Did he hit the center reservation? He might have hit the center reservation. I'm not sure. It's tough to call. But there you go. Full safety car has been called. And immediately, the field is springing into action. A lot of the lower field have managed to jump on this immediately. And this could be a deal breaker for the current drivers who remain out on that course right now, because the rest of them have managed to jump it.
What? Oh, that's just heartbreaking. We have a couple of drivers that are with the Delta. The drivers that have pitted, they wanted to have an undercut to be able to jump this whole field. Now, with the safety car coming out, it's kind of balanced it out. The drivers that are still on track will be profiting the most, I believe, from the safety car, because the safety car did not catch the race leader. If I have to guess what happened with Sergio Sobrino, is I think that a driver wanted to pit. And Sergio Sobrino, I think a driver wanted to go to the right, and Sergio Sobrino wanted to continue, and he must have just been swiped into that left one and just flung all the way across the track. That's the only explanation that I possibly can give you. Of course, we need to be seeing the onboards from that. But we're going to have a couple of drivers who might be in a very good position. Jan Halliday, Nelson Alves, Luca Ripassa, and Harvey Cohen are absolutely loving the way that this safety car got called in. And I think they might be our lead 4 drivers after this Sappy. Although,
I wouldn't hold your breath. I wouldn't hold your breath. Approaching. It's going to be a switch up. In fact, Leland is going to be overtaking them on the course. You can see they're trying their best to get out of the pits as fast as they can, really running the edge of the pit lane there. But Halliday, who was leading, best they're going to get is P4, with Alves barely slotting into P5. But those late pitters, they have taken a hit because they had to spend more time under the Delta.
Yeah, it's pretty much equal this way out. And even though we are seeing drivers that might be on 2-lap all the tires, because it was behind a safety car mainly, all the tires will be exactly equal. We do have the drivers that previously had wing damage visit the pit lane. I would believe if we go on board with Tope, or at least go for the outside view, we do see an intact front wing on the Williams car, which means that pretty much everyone is fully back into the race. And the only driver that has a disadvantage, I would say, is the Italian of Angelo D'Ortenzio, because he did that extra push lap on those mediums. So again, he's not put himself in the greatest position, but this safety car pretty much equals the playing field, and we're gonna get a little bit of the same scenario that we had on the hard tires. Sappy, everyone's on the same, in the same conditions with the same tires, but this time there's not going to be a pit stop that's going to be changing things up. We are going to be running towards the line. I think we're going to be seeing a little bit difference, a small difference in some moves. Drivers maybe a little bit more aggressive, but that's going to be all the more fun for us commentators. I hope that the safety car has about one more lap to go before we have the race start. It will depend on when Diego Zorzo catches up to the rest of the field. And then it is going to be showtime again. A sprint session of about 13 to 14 laps. The only question is, again, who will be your race winner after those laps?
Well, the big thing here is that with the medium running under the safety car, the tyre wear is going to be reduced. I think D'Ortenzio is going to mostly be fine. I don't think he's going to see much effect in terms of that tyre wear, short of maybe the last 2 laps, just because he's effectively got 2-3 laps free coming back from the safety car. So we will go lap 23, we will go green once again. The full safety car queue is intact, but it looks like Roshan has not had a good time, as they have had reportedly a collision and has been handed a 10-second penalty as a result. Now, we have seen this before, and this has sometimes been appealed, but it's not always been successful, because you are on that track. You are in control of your car. You need to still be just as aware of your surroundings as if you were in race trim. But here we go. Looks like we will be seeing the safety car coming in just a moment. There you go. There is the call from race control. Ignore the top left status. That may still display safety car, but we are about to go racing again. Lap 23, Leland controls the pace.
Certainly so. Quick recap on that penalty. Rishan had the incident with Keanu, which I would believe he got rear-handed. So unless it was an absolute brake check, we can't imagine that penalty being removed. So let's not keep our eye on that. Let's keep our eye on the safety car restart because Leo Lund's going on throttle there, trying to surprise Russell's back. No real impact. The side Jan Halliday was already trying to fight around the outside of Larry Tolke, trying to make a move early on, but unable to do so, slotting right back in. Are there any moves up the field? It is Rishan Jacobs going around the outside and now the inside of Daniel Koyer and making an easy position for himself there. So the Dutchman overtaking another Dutchman and slotting his way up the field with one more position. Keanu and Angelo are also in a fight. Oh, and my game's tapped out. What?
Oh, well, great attacks from around the field. You had fights to the back, fights in the middle, fights towards the top almost. But Jan Halliday not fully committing to the move just yet. Did push a little bit to try and get the early jump, but Tulki just had the edge on the apex of turn 1. You have some more attacking coming from the likes of Cohen as he's getting very close to the back of Reis Imtiaz in the Ferrari. But all eyes currently train towards the top end. Lund did get a really good start out of that yellow flag queue. He managed to get about 0.4 of a second on Quintino, and even with the DRS trying to dig into that a little bit, he's not going to be really touched. In fact, Larry Tulke is going to be making a move on Quintino now. He's going to take advantage of the fact that he's running a little bit slow to get that Mercedes up into P2. Question is, though, Halliday on the back of Quintino as well. Are they going to be making a move also? Quintino to the defensive on the inside of turn 4. Halliday has to back out, not having the space and just being squeezed out right at the edge of turn 5. So Halliday remains P4, but around the field, battles are brewing. Lap 24 of 36. 2/3 of the way through. This is starting to come to crunch time.
Certainly so. The race is now really starting to explode. And Larry Tolke, the Finnish driver, really showing another level of class. I mean, it's an incredible overtake and really a crucial one to go from third to second. Is something that's you don't often see that, especially for the Enduro. Normally you see it involving the race leader. But maybe it will show that Larry Tolke is feeling really confident in his car, and it could be a surprise race winner that we will be seeing tonight. Jan Halliday, though, going for a move again, but I think he will get boxed in just like what happened last time. Trying to go around the outside of turn 1 doesn't work, so needs to settle back in for a position. We've got Riccardo Benzoni and Luca Ripassa fighting, and Luca Ripassa was still on the inside there in turn 3. We do have wing damage from Riccardo Benzoni. He's missing an end plate, so we might be seeing him drop down the field a little bit more. Luca Ripassa, though, going down the inside, making that move happen there, and he now needs to drive up so he doesn't get caught outside of the DRS. But really unfortunate for the Italian Riccardo Benzoni with that wing damage and being overtaken around the outside by Kian Goddendorp. Really nice move from the Dutchman, who's trying to make his way up the field after he lost many positions in that hard stint.
But we also saw a couple of moves up ahead as Alves was making an attack on Halliday heading into the second sector. Like we said earlier, this isn't really a place that you get to see those moves. But you can still, by all means, challenge for it anyway. And we see that being put into force. Is Cohen and Imtiaz going side by side into the third sector and really holding each other to account. Both of them going to have the DRS. So it really is a full core drag race. Ferrari power plants. Has to be Ferrari. Let's see what they can do. Imtiaz has the inside. Has a bit better of a line, but it's almost 2, almost 3 wide. Rishan is going to poke his nose in there. Barely getting a squeeze. That's going to be Cohen coming out on top. Imtiaz being displaced all the way down into P11 as things get pretty frenetic in this mid-pack. The Ferrari is going to lose out on this occasion. Cohen going to get an early break into the first corner, and then up the front things have started to stabilize. They've managed to get themselves a bit of breathing room. But these three, Cohen, Jacobs, Imtiaz, what a fight we just saw between them as it seemed to all explode in the matter of about 30 seconds.
Yeah, although it was a nice move, I am afraid it was a little bit of a mistake from Harvey Cohen because he saw Rishan Jacobs trying to line up a move on the inside. He reacted pretty late to it, trying to cover up the inside, but as a result of that, found his way up the inside of Reis Imtiaz again and shoving him out of the way a little bit. So I might be afraid it could be a penalty for our Czech driver later on in that race, but luckily for us, we're not stewards, so we don't need to worry about that. but it is unfortunate for the Ferrari driver losing 2 positions in that fashion, so we will be continuing along the way. Luca Rapassa setting the fastest lap through, which again, the fastest lap is a point, so the Dutchman that currently does have this fastest lap is going to be relatively content with it, because who doesn't say no to a free point? Still a lot of pressure on the rear of Gabriel Quintino, because Jan Halliday is still trying to find a way past him. Meanwhile, we do have a battle between Toppe and Angelo D'Ortenzio, the Italian trying to get past the Finnish driver, but Toppe is trying to hold on, but he needs to go around the outside here, which could be a little bit of a struggle. 2-lap fresher tyres though for the Finnish driver, holding on alongside properly, and we might see a fun battle in this middle sector, but unfortunately for us commentators, Angelo D'Ortenzio does make that move happen. We do have Keanu Liatud and Ben Marbles in a fight, with Liam Stevens profiting from that, and Ben Marbles actually losing a lot of positions, getting pushed on the grass set, just like what happened to his teammate earlier on, and it's a lot of scrabbling further back. They found themselves outside of the DRS zone again. So Ben Marbles and Sixten Lintard are getting into pretty familiar territory, and unfortunately for them, they're bringing Diego Zorzo with them.
Yeah, so our second verse, same as the first, unfortunately, in this case. And something's kicked off as things get pretty dicey immediately. Quintino is going to be what looks like fully off the course. And that is going to also result in him losing a wing pretty much in its entirety. Look at all those elements gone. He's gone first to last almost, as things very quickly got dicey. Assessing, seeing if we got any damage from the rest of the field. Looks like Jan Halliday is missing an end plate. That is going to be a big issue for him and his efforts. He's already dropping to the likes of Rapassa and soon to be Godendorp. And then up at the top, here's the crucial thing. Alves is 1.1 seconds away. This keeps up. Tulki and Lund could leapfrog and they could get away from the field in pretty sharp fashion. But all of a sudden, things have changed. Quintino's out of the running. A pretty big incident towards the top. No doubt we'll be seeing clips of that later. Enter the steward's room.
Yeah, certainly Luca Rapassa needs to burn his battery now to be getting in front there, because letting these 2 drivers escape with 7 laps to go is a serious risky thing to do. Larry Tulki only catching fully back up to the rear of Leo Lund, making that gap quite small. It is on the verge of being caught in. Luca Rapassa actually did catch the DRS on this lap, so able to burn a little bit of battery again. He's probably going to be losing his position later on. He needs to just use a bit of the ERS to catch fully back in, and it's unfortunately a retirement from Gabriel Quintino in his home race. I don't think we quite caught what happened, but it is a very unfortunate thing for him, and Jan Halliday being collected by it as well with some wing damage. It does give us a couple of changes. Luca Rapassa has fought his way up the field. Same going for Nelson Alves, and Kian Goedendorp again finding himself in a strong position, just like last weekend. And with about 7 laps to go, I think this top 5 are the drivers that we need to be looking at for a potential race win.
Yeah, so a race win could be on the cards here. Curiously, Tulki Lund, they're not quite pushing 110% in the way that Rapassa is, to the point where Rapassa has now brought that gap down from almost in the danger zone, 1.1 seconds, to now just a quarter of a second. So this is going to be a quick reuniting of the top end of the field, and Halliday is going to be pushing on, but it is under threat. So you go to Dorp, and looks like we have Benzoni also dropping a few positions as a gaggle of cars in the mid-pack are quickly squabbling to make their way upwards. And even the McLaren teammates going side by side and together, as Benzoni is missing a front wing element. He's missing that end plate, and he's not going to be having much in the way of grip, meaning that he's kind of stuck to drop more positions. In a similar story, Koya is going to get overtaken by D'Ortenzio, who's making great work of the situation. Despite things not going their way initially, they have recovered well. They use the safety car to their advantage, it seems. And now Koya being under threat from Tope at the same time does mean that this queue is going to fall behind. And the Veloce Academy driver in 10th place currently is going to start making their way into the points.
Yeah, exactly. So Riccardo Benzoni had that wing damage for quite a long time, and side by side, with, I do believe, the Ferrari of Reese Imtiaz, and he was on the inside of turn 3. And he might have either not got enough space, or at least there was a little bit of sideways contact there, which nearly sent him spinning into the wall in that third turn. Had to save the car, but lost a lot of momentum in doing so, and lost quite a couple of positions. The gaps in the lead, it is really, really tight. You can fit the top 5 within a second of each other. It shows you how close those margins are now running up the hill. Those 5 more laps to go. It is really going to be unfolding pretty soon. And Reese Imtiaz with that 1 second gap is really not something that you are looking to see the Ferrari man need to currently just push to drive his way back in. And with the gap that he has behind Angelo D'Ortenzio, doesn't look like he's able to swap his way into the train. So we might see an 8-man race for the remainder of this race. And given the fact that Christian Jacobs does have a penalty, we can narrow that gap down to 7 drivers already. And if we look at the wing damage from Jan, it's only 6. So if we keep going by this, we only have 1 winner at the end.
The way things are going, but we're up to lap 32 now, and things are quickly shaping up to be something interesting. One thing of note is it looks like Leoland isn't quite pushing on the pace, and in fact braking quite early. So something I am wondering, has he gone a bit too lean on the fuel? Has he having to do a little bit of lift and coast? Because seeing particularly towards the entry of corners, he's not quite carrying the same corner speeds on the entry point as the rest of the field is. Or was he waiting to get overtaken by Larry Tulke as we saw into turn 4 so he can actually get his car to the end? This is pure speculation. We don't have the data in front of us, unfortunately. But one thing we do know is that with the first place position, like you said earlier, you're a bit of a sitting duck. You're purely on the offensive.
Yeah, exactly. So now I do have the HUD on in comparison to you, and I'm not seeing a fuel light by Larry Tolkien. To my knowledge, it is pretty easy to be saving fuel on this track. Some drivers even started with negative fuel. So I don't expect these drivers to be running into a fuel issue at the time. So I think it's more of a fact that he doesn't want to be in a leading position at this matter of time, because at some point he's going to get overtaken, and likely not by one car. You're going to have multiple cars trying to get in towards that first position. And I think second position is the place to be right now before we enter the final lap. But the question always is, on the final lap, do you want to be leading or do you want to be in second place? And for Brazil's happy, where do you want to enter this battle? Because it's a very long straight before the line, and an overtake can certainly happen.
Honestly, I would say before the start-finish DRS straight, I want to be about 2 tenths behind the leader. Reason is, I want to be able to get alongside, get through the apex, have a better line out of turns 1 and 2 through the center S. And then that way, even if they get the DRS on me heading into turn 4, it won't be enough to get the position back. So unless they go for a dive, they haven't got a counter. That's where I'd want to be personally. And that's where we often see in races that have a couple of DRS zones and they really can be leveraged early on in the lap. I think that's where you want to be. You want to be in second, because second place, it gives you that slingshot, and you haven't got the lap after for the other driver to counter.
Yeah, but it does give you on the final lap that long straight then, Sappy. What you were saying is that you wanted to overtake someone on that, in turn 1 the lap before. Don't you think you might get counted on the absolute final straight final lap?
Difference is you'll have a full battery in your pocket.
Yeah, it is true, but the driver behind will have slipstream and DRS, so those are the margins that are going to be very close, and it's a decision that one of the Flotcheck enemy drivers will likely have to make. Question is that Leo Lund or Luca Rapassa? It could certainly also be Larry Tolke. Meanwhile, we do have a couple of penalties further back, and the DRS train has split in half. Top 8 currently leading the second train with about a 2.2 seconds gap towards the leading back. So that means that likely it is still that 8-man battle. We're going to be seeing every single thing explode. 2 more laps to go. Larry Tolke currently in the lead for FVR with the 2 Flotcheck enemy drivers from second and third.
Well, looks like we've lost Liam Stevens, however, and that has introduced a quick migration of hosts. Luckily, we haven't got any conditions like safety car coming into play. Otherwise, that would have been very dicey indeed. Things seem to be fine. Things seem to be stable. Tulki and Lund still alongside for what most part. And Rapasa about 0.2 of a second behind. And Alves going to be waiting in the wings. But this front end of the field is so tightly packed. I think, like you said earlier, getting overtaken here, especially one of the key DRS zones, it could easily mean 3 positions as much as it means 1. But let's stay on board towards the front here, as this is crunch time here. If you have 36 laps, it's 35 laps of prep and 1 lap of full bore racing with no restrictions, no holding back now. It's time to see what they can do. It's the final lap here in the second round of season 39. It's going to be Leo Lund, but what's this? Luca Rapasa is going to go alongside. It's 2, it's 3 wide. For a brief moment, Rapasa pokes the nose. They're all going super aggressive. Bit of slide on the tail end for Rapasa. He gets past Tulki. He holds the line, but Rapasa's still got work to do. DRS on the second straight here. Super narrow on the inside for Leo Lund as he's on the defensive. He's going to get overtaken by Rapasa. I think he might have it here, and you can see it go 2-3 cars wide as the exit of the corner proves to be a bit too much for some. Lund's about 1.5 seconds as they're squabbling for positions even further back going. And Halliday, for example, still contending with that wing damage, but holding the line, holding firm, holding strong. As we go through the second sector, though, I think Lund might just be out of options unless he takes it right to the line. He's recharging. He's holding as much of the battery as he can. I think he's going to pump everything into this final attack, but so is Rapasa. He's also on the recharge, makes his way up. It all comes down to this. It's a drag race. We've lost Benzoni, but here comes Lund. Is there going to be enough time? Is there the push? Here comes the Ferrari. It's going to right to the line. He just about takes it. 0.5 of a second. Rapasa is displaced, and Lund takes top honours here in Brazil.
Exactly doing what he needed to do. He took the lead earlier on in that final lap, but Luca wanted to lead coming out of that final turn, and Leo Lund was like, that's fine by me because I'll overtake you on the straight in the end. Leo Lund, our Swede, taking the victory in round number 2 of the PSGL PCF2 season, made possible by GT Omega. An absolutely incredible drive from him, driver of the day, going to Luca Rapasa earlier on. But that was quite the hectic race, and it all unfolding on that final lap. And one of the things that we wanted to watch out for is, do you want to lead in that final lap? And Larry Tolkien did so, and he dropped back all the way down to P5, which really shows how clinical this grid is and how important you need to position your car on this grid. Leo Lund, your race winner. Luca Rapasa in second place. We've got Nelson Alves, Kian Goodendorp, Larry Tolkien, Harvey Cohen, Jan Halliday, Toppe, Angelo D'Ortenzio. Then we've got Daniel Coyer, Reese Imtiaz, Keanu Liatud, Diego Zorzo, Ben Marple, Sixten Leentop, Rishan Jacobs, Ricardo Manzoni, Liam Stevens, Gabriel Contino, and Sergio Sobrino rounding off the field for what has been a very entertaining race around Sao Paulo.
Yeah, well, what a race it has been. And very high risk, high reward move, going for it right at the very end of the race, but managed to make it work. And in the end, Leo Lund is going to take that pole and, well, take the race as well. Short of the fastest lap, this was a grand slam weekend for the Veloce Academy driver, and hopefully we get a chance to hear from him as we come out of the race. We hopefully see the drivers cooling down. We might also get a bit of insight into what happened with some of those on-track incidents that saw the demise of particularly Quintino. I'm very curious about what happened in that turn 1 kerfuffle, because to go from the second row all the way down to P19 to the very back is, well, it's a dramatic drop, and it makes you wonder exactly what happened.
Yeah, I'm just quickly looking at the chat, and Luca Rapasa asked to Sergio Sobrino what happened to him, and his own words was, "I am just stupid, mate." And then I was asked what he did, and he said, "Stay out / box equals as wall." So that's the reason why we got that safety car earlier on in this race. But as we go along, I'm going to tag these drivers to see if we can get some interviews in. But we've got one man already patiently waiting in the waiting room, and it is our race winner, Leo Lund. So, Sapitron, take it away.
Oh, first off, Leo, congratulations. Like, short of the fastest lap, this has been a near perfect weekend for you. So, congratulations on both the pole and the win. So, my first question, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling quite great. I'm very happy.
Oh, justifiably so. What were your expectations heading into this weekend?
My expectations were quite high as I'm very good at this track, so I did not think my pole lap was gonna be enough, but it was, so I'm really happy with my performance.
And what was the point for you? Now, you had a strong qualifying. The race was quite hectic. There was a bit of up and down, particularly that safety car early days. Was there a particular point where you thought you sort of realized that you were going to win, or was it quite down to the wire?
I think it was just who had the most luck and right time of being in the best position to the end. You always want to be in P2 as well to the last lap. So yeah.
You certainly did take it right to the last lap. We saw that almost photo finish. The adrenaline must have been pumping in that moment.
I mean, yes, but I was quite calm, but yeah, of course the adrenaline is pumping.
Oh, of course. Strong result. Now, when it comes to the standings, when we look at how you did here today, DNF last time out, but tonight, a quick spring back and a strong return to form. Is this the start of something? Is this the start of your potential championship drive? Of course, 9 rounds in the season, so to get a first place means more here than arguably many seasons past.
Yeah, I think I have a good chance of it, but I just need the luck on my side.
Well, luck certainly played into your hand, although I tend to say the more you train, the harder you work, the luckier you get, and I think that has played out here. So, well done, unless there's any questions from Simon on that front.
No, honestly, you can hear the emotion in your voice, Leo, obviously being very happy with it. But Sappy answered pretty much all the questions that I had. So obviously an incredible job by yourself. How do you ambition yourself in the championship for the future? You aiming for the title, or are you just, I'm really going to take this win and just try and collect as many points as I can? Do you think you can become the champion this year?
Yeah, of course. My goal is to win it, so that's why I'm here.
Absolutely great to hear. I'd like to thank you a lot for your time, congratulate you on your race win, and then we're gonna move over towards our man in second place, Luca Rapassa.
Yeah, it was a pretty decent race. I know my quali was gonna be not very good. Practice was pretty slow. I knew my race pace was good, so yeah, I wasn't too worried. But yeah, helped that the safety car came out at the right time. So
yeah, certainly, because I believe you didn't pit before the safety car came out. Was I correct in that?
Yeah, I Larry pit on that lap, and I wanted to go longer anyway, so it worked out perfectly. I gained like I think 4 positions, so was in a good position from there on.
Yeah, of course, and with those tyres, they must have been pretty equal compared to the rest, but you were able to pick up a lot of moves very easily, and we saw you earlier on in the race attempting to make a couple of moves in the middle of the track as well in that second sector. How easy did it feel for you to overtake and carve your way through the field?
Well, it was actually pretty difficult because a lot of people weren't like trying to overtake themselves, so I really had to just do it on my own. I was hoping people were fighting a bit more, using a bit more of their battery, but like when I was behind Race, he was just sitting behind, I think it was Liam, and just didn't do anything, didn't try any overtake, so that was pretty difficult to overtake. Of course, when you're like close to the front, it's a bit easier, I feel, with like the leader not having DRS, and like you can play into that a bit more. So yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously on that final lap, you decided to willingly take the lead in turn 4. Was that always the plan that you had, knowing that you had Leo Lund behind you for that very long straight in the end? Do you think you had the race win on that final lap, or were you always scared or expecting a second position?
Well, I think I was a bit lower on wings than Leo, so I thought it would be better to lead. But yeah, he had a bit more ERS. Like, I was expecting him to be out of ERS on like the second ERS straight, so I could save my ERS more for like the last straight. But he had like enough ERS to stay close to me, and I had to save a lot of ERS myself. So yeah, that's why he overtook me. But yeah, P2 is still, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and P2 again, an exceptional result. And with the calendar being so incredibly short, our shortest PSGL season ever, it does put you in a pretty nice position in those championship standings. And I think if I ask it to every single driver here, they're all going to say that their ambition is to become the title. But how important really is this good point scoring position in this race? The rest of the calendar, is it looking good for you? How high do you expect yourself to end up?
I don't know. I'm missing the last 2 races, so the championship will probably not be it. But I'll just try to do the best I can every race and be on the podium and maybe win some races. Just yeah, try to get as many points.
Great. Sappy, do you have any more questions?
No, you covered all bases pretty much. You said it yourself, Luca. As they didn't have the strongest qualifying in the world, but you had faith in the race pace and you worked your way up throughout the session to a very strong finish. Certainly a race you can take pride in, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the calendar holds. Even if I'm not in the commentary box, I'll certainly be watching.
Yeah, absolutely great. Thank you very much for your time, Luca. And we go over to the man that has finished in that 3rd position, the Williams Academy driver, Nelson Alves. Nelson, pleasure seeing you here.
Yeah, pleasure. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, kind of disappointed with my performance, to be honest. Qualifying was way off my PB, around 2 tenths, so not ideal. But I guess in the race I made like a decent race. I think I could have been fighting more for the win if I made the better moves on the race. I don't really think I maximized it, but overall it was a pretty decent performance and good way to bounce back after what happened last week. So happy with P3.
Yeah, certainly so. And you're saying that you're disappointed with a 3rd position at the start. Of course, it might be a little bit harsh on yourself because last week you got P16, no points for you there. But now 3rd position, it puts you right back in the championship where you really want to be. And again, I'm going to ask the same question I did to Luca. With the aim towards the rest of the calendar, with such an exceptional short season, what are your aims for the rest of the season? You're going to be attending all races, champion? Yes or no?
Yes, definitely fighting for the championship. So from now on, it's just keep working, keep improving, and try my best to be in the title fight until the end.
Great. Sappy, any final questions for yourself?
I can't really ask more than that. Fight to the end, that's the sign of a racing driver through and through. Looking forward to seeing what you do out there, Nelson. As a strong result tonight, and even if you're not happy with it yourself, I think there is certainly great hopes for the championship on the cards here. So to bounce back from, I believe it was P16 last round, to now standing here on the podium, I believe that is a sign of promise. So looking forward to seeing you out on track, and we'll hopefully see you in this commentary box sooner rather than later.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the words, and I wish you guys good evening.
Thank you. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the of podium races. So we just had a chance to talk to Lund, Ripasa and Alves. Great results from them. A reminder of the standings are from the previous round. Of course, provisional standings today. And we will see some changes up in this championship. We'll see Jan Halliday take a bit of a haircut in terms of his lead, as he is going to be certainly challenged by some of the other drivers on the field. But as it stands, this is what we say goodbye for tonight. Join us, of course, next time out here in PSGL as we head to Belgium for round 3. Thank you, of course, for everyone's patience. We had that early technical hiccup. We got back on our feet, though, but thank you for everyone who joined us from the very start. Whether you joined us from F3 on the redirect, we're always happy to have you here. So do stick with us. Join us Thursdays for PC tiers, Mondays for console. And with all that being said, thank you from both ourselves, and we will see you next race, folks. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.